So in today's lesson, what we're going to do is two-step function machines. Now, if you haven't watched the video on one-step function machines, I'd recommend you go and watch that video now to make sure that you know what function machines are. So a two-step function machine is just where you have two parts here, two operations. Now, when we have a function machine, remember, we have an input. We do some operations to them. So in the two-step function machine, we have two operations here and here. And then we have our final result, which is an output. So when we have a two-step function machines, we're going to have two operations here and here. So if I have this question, what is the output when the input is 4? My input goes on the left, and that's 4. And I need to work out what the output is, which is on the right-hand side. Now, to do that, I need to do 4 add 7. So I'm taking this 4 and I'm running it through this first part of the machine. So 4 add 7 is going to get me 11. And I'm going to put my result for that first part in the middle here. Then I need to do 11 take away 3. I'm taking 11 and I'm putting it through this operation, through this machine. So 11 take away 3 gets me 8. So 8 is my output. Then, if I have this question where I have an input of 6, what I'm going to do to find the output is 6 times by 5. So I'm going to go in that direction. So 6 times by 5 gets me 30. And I'm going to put that answer to that first operation just to the right of it. Then I'm going to take this 30 and I'm going to run it through this second part. So 30 take away 7 gets me 23. So my output is 23. In this situation, I'm just asked to find what the output is. And because this number 3 is on the left-hand side, this is my input. So I'm going to do 3 add 2, which gets me 5. And then I need to square it. Well, 5 squared is the same as 5 times 5. And 5 times 5 is going to get me an answer of 25. So 25 is my output, and that's my answer. So instead of just being given one input, we're given 3 inputs. So I'm going to do each input, and I'm going to go through the function machine. So I'm going to do 12 add 6, and that's going to get me 18. And then I'm going to divide it by 3, which gets me 6. The next one, I'm going to do 9 add 6, which gets me 15. And then I need to do 15 divided by 3, which gets me 5. And then for this last one, 21 add 6 gets me 27. And remember, what I'm doing here is I'm keeping each of these inputs in line like this. So then, going back to the question, 21 add 6 was 27. 27 divided by 3 gets me 9. So I found my output for each of these inputs. Now, as opposed to going from left to right, where my inputs were here and my outputs were here, I'm given my output and I need to find my input. Now, when we went with the arrow, we were doing that operation in the box. But when we go against the arrow, what we're doing is we're going in the opposite direction to the arrow. So to get from my output to my input, I need to go in this direction. So because I'm going in the opposite direction to these two arrows here, I need to do the opposite of that operation. So what I'm going to do, if I'm going in the opposite direction to adding 7, then 27, what I need to do to the 27 is take away 7 instead. So 27, take away 7 gets me 20. So then if I need to do the opposite of multiplying by 4, that's going to be dividing by 4. So I need to divide here by 4. So 20 divided by 4 is going to get me 5. And so 5 is my input. Now, for this question, I need to work out what the inputs for each of my outputs here. And my outputs are here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at 18, okay? And I'm going to start with this one. And I need to go, well, because I'm going in the opposite direction to this arrow, that means that I'm going to have to actually be doing the opposite of timesing by 2. So that means that I'm actually going to be dividing by 2. And I'm going to get rid of this here to not confuse me anymore, because I'm now working with this up top, which is dividing by 2. So 18 divided by 2 is going to get me 9. So then I need to go from 9 and I need to work out, well, what's the opposite of adding 6? Well, the opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. And in doing that, I'm going to get rid of this part here so I don't confuse myself. So then 9 take away 6 is going to get me 3. For this next one, I'm going to do 12 divided by 2 because I'm going in the opposite direction to the original arrow, or I'm following these blue arrows. So in following the blue arrows, 12 divided by 2 gets me 6, and then 6 take away 6, because that's my next jump, is going to get me 0. So then the last one is 10 divided by 2, which gets me 5, and then 5 take away 6 is going to get me -1. So I found my inputs here. And if I wanted to, I could take any of these inputs and go with the arrow again, so I'd be using +6 and times by 2, and they would get me my outputs. Now, for this question, I need to work out what the operations are, and the operations are these things in the boxes. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to look at this and go, okay, I'm going to guess. I reckon that in this first part, I'm going to times by 2, and then, so 1 times 2 gets me 2, and then I have to add on 5. And this is all a case of just guessing. And if I do 2 add 5, I end up with 7. And the reason I chose add 5 was because I started at 2, and I needed to get up to 7, so I'm going to add 5. Okay, so I'm going to try it. Because each of these inputs uses the same rule to get to the numbers on the right, I'm going to try this 5 now. So 5 times by 2 gets me 10. So then 10 add 5 gets me 19. Well, that doesn't work. So because that doesn't work, that means that this operation here of times by 2 then add 5 doesn't work. So I'm going to try a different operation. Instead, I reckon if I do 1 times by 3, 1 times by 3 gets me 3. And then if I have to get up to 7, I'm going to add on 4. So 3 add 4 gets me 7, okay? Now, because of that, what I need to do from here is I then need to do 5 times by 3, and that's going to get me 15. And then if I use that second operation, that's going to be 15 add 4, and that's going to get me 19. So that works. So I'm going to try it with my third one now, the bottom one. 10 times by 3 is going to get me 30. And then if I add on 4, that's going to get me 34. So that works. So my 2 rules here were times by 3 and then add 4. And that's how you do 2-step function machines.